Well, there was this Terry Carlin. He had a collection of baskets that his mother had had. And he said that when he was quite young, they were living they had bought this apartment building, and they were living there while their home was being built. And while they were there, his mother met a woman who rented one of the rooms, and she had a collection of baskets, a huge collection of baskets. And when she died, she left them to Mrs. Carlin. And when she was moving from the apartment, she only saved a few of these baskets. She threw the rest away into the garbage because I don't think she even knew the value of them. And so I'm really thankful that some of these baskets were saved, because they have such an interesting history. Because when the Fort Tongass was closed, the Tlingit people moved either to Ketchikan or to Metlakatla. And many of those that moved to Metlakatla must have been weavers. And when the Tsimshians, who Ko-Tsimshian, who only weave S-twist, saw this beautiful false embroidery and this weaving in basketry, they start imitating what they saw. And because there's so much canary grass on that island, and there's also mountains and fields of maidenhair fern, they don't use anything but red cedar warp, red cedar weft, and the sun-bleached grass. And they do use maidenhair fern. This one doesn't have any maidenhair fern, but this is canary grass that is sun-bleached. And this basket is so beautifully woven. It starts out very fine, and she was so smart. She didn't even really add that much after she did the fine weaving, but she got the warp and the weft to get larger, and so without having to add too much, she's expanding her weaving, but going from very fine, and that's a Tlingit technique too, where you start out fine and you go so far, and there are a few additions, but not that much. And this is a really beautifully made basket. It was a very experienced weaver who made this basket. And it's really great that Terry was willing to share this with me, and I'm very happy to share it with Sealaska and have it in their collection.
Well, we're very excited to have that, because we don't have anything like that, and also to learn this difference between Z-twist and S-twist.
Well, I saw that at the British Museum. I was supposed to be doing Haida basketry research, but I got a grant from the Alaska State Council on the Arts to be in Great Britain for 6 weeks with my mother. And when I was there, they happened to open one of the drawers that had the Ko-Tsimshian, which was S-twist. And then they opened this drawer that had Metlakatla Tsimshian, and it had Z-twist. I got so excited that I had to share it with somebody, so I told Jonathan King, it's really amazing. Here's the Ko-Tsimshian, and they're doing S-twist, but here's the Metlakatla Tsimshian. So I came home to Ketchikan and started looking up when Tlingit people moved to Metlakatla. It was really interesting to find out that, because some early Tsimshian baskets are S-twist, but all the later ones are Z-twist. So to me, it was a real exciting discovery to see the impact and exchange of intellectual property between tribes. And so, to me, this is a really exciting piece to represent the Tsimshian weaving.
Now, is the false embroidery, was that a thing at practice too?
Well, you know, when I
Tsimshian?
worked at the British Museum, I had a translator, and she was talking about the false embroidery, but by then I could understand enough words in German that she was making it sound like a really bad technique. So I said, stop. It isn't a bad technique. Real embroidery goes through material and comes back out. So there's part of the whatever is happening is in the back. But this is just a term that was developed because the embroidery is just on one side. So it's called false embroidery. It was so funny. She said, oh, you don't need a translator. I said, oh, yes, I do. It's just, I just didn't want you to get the impression that this was a bad technique. It's a really unique technique. And the story is that this kind of beautiful embroidery started with the Yakutat people. That they were the best weavers, and their weavers are very, very fine and beautifully made. And a lot of times, like they were so well known for their basketry that sometimes they sold it to other tribes. And you'll see a basket that's attributed to like Klakwan, and you look at it and you know it isn't from Klakwan because it's so beautifully and finely and so much false embroidery. Because Klakwan, they did black bands like the Haidas. And they also used, it's really interesting, they also used the feather, the quills from the feathers, the eagle quills. They used in some of their embroidery, and I didn't know what they were. I would see this white and wonder what it was. And here, nobody else did that. Maybe because they have so many eagles up there, but they used quills in their embroidery, in some of their embroidery. Not all of it, but there were women who used it.
So that's like, looks like it's 3 different colors. They made the false embroidery.
Yes, it looks like they had, they probably used the alderbark dye, because that doesn't stay too long, and so that looks almost like there's a basket that my mother wove on the taku, and she was doing rit dye. I said, Mother, it would really be neat if you did the top with alderbark dye. I have some grass that I dyed with alderbark, and it's really faded out. It's just really sad that I did that, because the contrast is just really remarkable, because the rit dye is still dark, but the alderbark is fugitive and has faded out like this, and looks like this. So I'm sure that that's alderbark dye.
Okay. And the lid has a little loop on it.
Yes, I used to say that was typically Tsimshian, but I see in the museums that Haidas did that especially the Haidas from Kasan. I see some of their baskets with this. Yes, it's a really beautiful piece. It's just exquisite.
It really is. Well, thank you again for donating to us and thinking of us and having it. Now we have it in our collection. It's beautiful.